Admiral Kelver Thrace gazed out the viewport of Orbital Defense Station Arcturus, his weathered face reflecting against the backdrop of Earth's blue sphere. Humanity had enjoyed 2 centuries of interstellar expansion and relative peace. Until today. Play the transmission again, he ordered quietly. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of Supreme Warlord Dravix of the Viridian Imperium. The alien's obsidian carapace gleamed under the lights of his command deck, 6 glowing purple eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern on what passed for a face. People of Earth and her colonies. The translation software rendered in a flat monotone that somehow still carried menace. Your expansion ends now. The stars belong to the worthy, and your kind has been deemed unworthy. Submit to Viridian rule within 1 standard solar cycle or face annihilation. Our Dreadnought-class vessels have conquered 12 galactic civilizations. None have withstood our Cascade shield technology. None ever will. The message ended with footage of a massive warship, easily 15 kilometers long, absorbing concentrated fire from what appeared to be an entire planetary defense fleet. The energy weapons simply dissolved against a rippling, hexagonal barrier before the Viridian vessel unleashed a searing beam that cracked the targeted planet like an egg. Lieutenant Commander Isolde Ravencroft entered the Admiral's office, her dark hair pulled back tightly, expression grim. The Security Council has adjourned, sir. They've authorized Operation Thunderbolt. Thrace nodded slowly. Assemble the team. We need Vanguard project operational immediately. Sir, Vanguard is still theoretical. Dr. Marek insists they need at least another 6 months. We don't have 6 months, Commander. We have 30 days. Thrace's eyes hardened. Get me Marek, Blackwood, and Devereaux. Tell them to bring everything they have. 12 hours later, Thrace stood in the cavernous underground facility beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars. Before him, 3 of humanity's most brilliant minds argued intensely around a holographic model of what looked like a standard Alliance corvette. Dr. Asher Marek, his wild mane of silver-streaked auburn hair unkempt as always, gesticulated wildly. The principle is sound, but the power requirements are impossible. Even with quantum fusion, we can't generate the energy needed for a sustained inverse cascade field. Fleet Engineer Lysandra Devereaux, her ebony skin contrasting with the stark white of her lab coat, shook her head vehemently. We don't need to sustain it indefinitely. We just need enough power for 1 good hit. Weapons Specialist Orion Blackwood, quiet until now, looked up from his calculations. His eyes, one blue, one with a cybernetic replacement glowing faintly amber, narrowed thoughtfully. What if we're approaching this wrong? He said. The Viridians use a cascade shield that redirects energy attacks into subspace. What if instead of trying to overpower it, we exploit its very principle? The room fell silent as Blackwood manipulated the hologram, indicating key systems. Their shield works by cascading energy through multiple dimensional layers. But every cascade has a resonance frequency. If we can match that frequency and then suddenly shift to its inverse. Dr. Marek's eyes widened. A destructive interference pattern, like noise-canceling technology, but for shield harmonics. Devereaux was already running simulations. It could work, but we'd need direct shield frequency readings from an active Viridian ship. Which means getting dangerously close to one, Thrace concluded. Not just close, Blackwood corrected grimly. We need to take fire from it, analyze the cascade in real time, and respond before we're vaporized. Admiral Thrace studied the 3 scientists, and then the model of the small corvette. What about the Artemis prototype? It has the stealth capabilities to get close enough. With significant modifications, Devereaux conceded. Then do it, Thrace ordered. Humanity has 30 days to live. I want a working prototype in 15. As the team dispersed with renewed purpose, Thrace remained, staring at the hologram. Humanity had always survived through ingenuity and courage. Now they would need both in abundance. And something else, Thrace thought. Something the Viridians clearly lacked, the understanding that cornering an intelligent species was a deadly mistake. The Artemis corvette hung in the void near Proxima Centauri, its experimental metamaterial hull absorbing ambient radiation rather than reflecting it. On the bridge, Captain Tavares Wolf monitored the tactical display with unnatural stillness. After 2 decades as an Alliance Special Forces operative before joining the Navy, stillness was second nature to him. "Proximity alert," reported Navigator Kaidajun, her fingers dancing across the haptic interface. Viridian scout ship entering the system. "Battle stations," Wolf ordered calmly. "Lieutenant Reed, activate passive sensors only." "Dr. Marek, are your instruments ready?" Dr. Marek hunched over his specialized console, the hastily installed equipment looking out of place on the sleek bridge. "As ready as they'll ever be, Captain. Remember, we need clean readings of their shield frequencies when they fire." "Which means they need to shoot at us," Weapons Officer Alara Reed noted dryly. "Lovely. Just enough to analyze, not enough to die," Wolf replied with a tight smile. "Helm, bring us on an intercept course. Use the star's radiation belt for cover until the last moment." The Artemis slipped silently through space, utilizing the charged particles streaming from Proxima Centauri to mask its approach. The Viridian scout ship, a crescent-shaped vessel bristling with sensor arrays, patrolled methodically. "They haven't detected us," Jun confirmed, tension evident in her voice. "Marek, how close do you need to be?" Wolf asked. "Ideally, inside their weapons envelope, but not so close they can hit us with a single burst. We need time to record the cascade harmonics." Wolf nodded. "Reed, prepare a warning shot. Kinetic projectile only, minimum yield. We want to provoke them, not destroy them." Reed's hands flew over her console. "Ready, sir." "Execute." A single railgun round streaked from the Artemis, deliberately missing the Viridian vessel by mere meters. The effect was immediate. The alien ship pivoted with surprising agility, scanning frantically for the source of the attack. "They've spotted us," Jun reported. "Energy weapons charging." "Hold position," Wolf commanded. "Brace for impact." The Viridian scout fired, a brilliant beam of coherent energy lancing through space toward the Artemis. At the last moment, Wolf ordered partial evasion. The corvette lurched sideways, allowing only a fraction of the beam to strike its reinforced hull. The ship shuddered violently. "Hull integrity at 82%, Reed called out. "Minor damage to port stabilizers." "Did you get it?" Wolf demanded, looking at Marek. The scientist was transfixed by the streams of data flooding his displays. "Partial reading. I need more. The cascade has multiple harmonic layers. We're not going to survive another direct hit," Reed warned. Wolf made a split-second decision. "Helm, attack pattern Delta 6. Get us close enough for their point defense systems to engage." The Artemis surged forward, executing a series of unpredictable maneuvers as it closed the distance to the Viridian scout. The alien vessel responded with a barrage of smaller energy pulses from its secondary weapons. "Marek," Wolf shouted over the alerts as the ship rocked from multiple impacts. "Almost there." The scientist's fingers flew across his interface, eyes darting between displays. Each weapon has a slightly different frequency, but they all follow the same mathematical progression. Another hit rocked the ship violently. "Hull integrity critical." Reed reported. "We need to withdraw." "I've got it," Marek exclaimed triumphantly. Full cascade harmonic series mapped and logged. "Helm, get us out of here," Wolf ordered. "Maximum burn, random jump coordinates." As the Artemis fled, the Viridian scout attempted pursuit but couldn't match the corvette's acceleration. Within moments, the human vessel disappeared into the depths of space. Mission accomplished despite the heavy damage. Back at Mars Station 3 days later, Wolf stood with Admiral Thrace as they watched Dr. Marek present his findings to the assembled team. The Viridian Cascade shield operates on a 15-dimensional harmonic matrix, Marek explained, displaying complex waveforms. But there's a pattern, a mathematical constant that underlies the entire system. "Can we exploit it?" Thrace asked directly. Blackwood stepped forward. "Yes. We've designed what we're calling a harmonic inversion projector. It works by first matching the exact frequency of their shield, essentially becoming invisible to the cascade field, then rapidly inverting to the precise antiharmonic. Like pushing through a door by turning the knob instead of breaking it down, Devereaux added. Except in this case, turning the knob causes the entire door to disintegrate. How soon can it be weaponized? Thrace demanded. Devereaux looked grim. That's the problem. The power requirements mean we can only equip our largest vessels, and even then, it's going to be a short-range weapon. Which means facing those dreadnoughts up close, Wolf concluded, understanding the implications. Exactly, said Blackwood. We're talking suicide runs. Admiral Thrace was silent for a long moment. Then we'd better make them count. 2 weeks had passed since the Viridian ultimatum. Earth's orbital shipyards worked at maximum capacity, retrofitting the Alliance's 12 battleships with the experimental harmonic inversion projectors. The rest of humanity's considerable fleet, hundreds of smaller vessels without the necessary power generation capacity, would serve as the distraction force. Admiral Thrace stood on the bridge of the AFS Thermopylae, flagship of the Earth Defense Fleet. Around him, the command crew prepared for what might be humanity's final battle. Status report, he ordered. Fleet Captain Moira Ironheart, a tall woman whose steady temperament belied her name, responded crisply. All 12 battleships report ready, Admiral. HIP systems are online but untested in actual combat. The strike fleets are in position throughout the system. Ground evacuation of critical personnel is at 89%. Thrace nodded grimly. And the Viridians? 7 dreadnoughts have entered the system, sir. They're maintaining position just beyond lunar orbit. Multiple support craft detected as well. Strategic Officer Pax Volkov, a burly man with a scar running from temple to jaw, studied the tactical display. They're being cautious, moving in formation consistent with an overwhelming force expecting minimal resistance. They think this is going to be easy, Thrace said quietly. Let's prove them wrong. Signal the fleet. Operation Thunderbolt is go. Throughout the solar system, humanity's vessels began to move. The plan was desperate but clear. The swarm of smaller ships would engage the Viridian fleet, forcing them to activate their cascade shields and disperse their formation. Then, the 12 battleships would target individual dreadnoughts at point-blank range. From his command chair on the Viridian flagship Indomitable Conquest, Supreme Warlord Dravix observed the approaching human fleet with contempt. They dare to resist, he remarked to his second-in-command, Subcommander Krozak. How typically primitive. The human vessels are deploying in attack formation, Krozak reported. Their numbers are considerable. Numbers mean nothing against our technology, Dravix dismissed. Activate cascade shields and prepare the planet breaker cannon. We will make an example of their homeworld. The 7 massive Viridian dreadnoughts unfurled their energy shields, hexagonal patterns of shifting purple light enveloping the enormous vessels. They began to advance toward Earth in a delta formation. Admiral Thrace watched as the first wave of Alliance fighters and corvettes engaged the alien fleet. As expected, their weapons, conventional laser arrays and kinetic projectiles, dissipated harmlessly against the cascade shields. The Viridians are responding with point defense systems only, reported Tactical Officer Rain Blackstar. They're not even bothering with their main weapons. They're conserving energy for the planet breaker, Thrace realized. All battleships, commence Phase 2. Strike fleets, maintain harassment patterns. The Thermopylae and its 11 sister ships accelerated toward the Viridian formation, engines straining at maximum output. The smaller Alliance vessels continued their seemingly futile attacks, drawing the aliens' attention. Captain Wolf, now commanding the retrofitted battleship Odysseus, watched the massive alien dreadnought growing larger on his view screen. Helm, maintain collision course. Weapons, charge the HIP to full capacity. Enemy vessel is locking weapons on us, his tactical officer reported. Their cascade shield is at full power. Perfect, Wolf replied. Activate Artemis Protocol. Across the battlefield, the 12 human battleships each targeted a Viridian vessel. The Thermopylae led the charge against the alien flagship, its reinforced prow pointed directly at the center of the massive warship. "They're on a collision course," Subcommander Krozak informed Dravix with disbelief. "The humans are attempting to ram us." "Predictable desperation," Dravix sneered. "Their vessels will disintegrate against our shields. Target the lead ship and eliminate it." The indomitable Conquest fired its main weapon, a searing beam of concentrated energy that struck the Thermopylae dead center. For a moment, the human battleship was engulfed in blinding light. But when the energy dissipated, the Thermopylae continued its advance, damaged but intact. Impossible. Dravix rose from his command throne. "Fire again." On the Thermopylae's bridge, Admiral Thrace gripped his chair as the ship shuddered violently. "Hip status. Harmonic match achieved." Ironheart replied. "Shield frequency locked and synchronized. Full power to the inversion field." Thrace ordered. "All hands brace for impact." The Thermopylae struck the Viridian flagship's shield at full speed. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, like water flowing through a membrane, the human battleship passed through the supposedly impenetrable barrier. Across the battlefield, the scene repeated as humanity's battleships penetrated the Viridian shields using the harmonic inversion projectors. The alien vessels, suddenly vulnerable, found themselves engaged at point-blank range. "Fire all weapons," Thrace commanded as the Thermopylae emerged inside the flagship shields. "Target their power core." The bridge of the indomitable Conquest descended into chaos as alarms blared. Supreme Warlord Dravix watched in disbelief as the tactical display showed the unthinkable. Human vessels inside their cascade shields. "This is impossible," he raged. "No technology can penetrate our defensive matrix." Subcommander Krozak frantically worked his console. "The humans have somehow synchronized with our shield harmonics. They're targeting our power cores." The Thermopylae, though critically damaged from its shield penetration, unleashed its full weapons complement at near-zero range. Missiles and energy weapons tore into the previously invulnerable hull of the Viridian flagship. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield. Of the 12 human battleships that attempted the maneuver, 7 successfully breached their target's defenses. The other 5 were destroyed in the attempt, their HIP systems failing at the critical moment. All ships with successful penetration execute attack pattern Omega, Admiral Thrace commanded, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. "Target their primary power distribution nodes." Captain Wolf's Odysseus had successfully breached the shields of the dreadnought designated Target 3. On his command bridge, fire suppression systems battled electrical blazes as his crew fought to keep their weapon systems online. "We've got maybe 5 minutes before our reactor goes critical," his chief engineer reported via a static-filled comm channel. "The HIP burned through our safeties." "That's all the time we need," Wolf responded grimly. "All batteries, concentrate fire on these coordinates." The Odysseus unleashed everything it had, its weapon systems burning out from the sustained fire. The Viridian vessel's armor, designed to withstand attacks from outside its shields, proved vulnerable to assault from within. Critical systems exploded under the barrage. In orbit around Mars, Dr. Marek monitored telemetry from the battle alongside Engineer Devereaux and weapons specialist Blackwood. Their expressions grew increasingly hopeful as data streamed in. "It's working," Marek breathed. "The harmonic inversion is holding." "But the power requirements are frying our ships," Devereaux noted, pointing to failing systems reports. "They're sacrificing themselves." "It's worth it," Blackwood said quietly. "Look." The tactical display showed 3 Viridian dreadnoughts already breaking apart, their massive forms consumed by secondary explosions. A 4th drifted powerless, its systems offline. On the Thermopylae, Admiral Thrace watched with grim satisfaction as the indomitable Conquest superstructure began to buckle under his ship's relentless assault. "Sir," Captain Ironheart reported, "our reactor containment is failing. Estimated 2 minutes to critical breach." Thrace nodded, unsurprised. "Target their bridge and fire everything we have left. Then prepare abandoned ship protocols." "Admiral," Communications Officer Coloni interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the Viridian command vessel. Supreme Warlord Dravix's face appeared on screen, his carapace cracked and leaking luminescent fluid. This is impossible, he hissed. How did you overcome our shields? Despite the dire situation, Thrace allowed himself a small smile. You made a critical error, Warlord. You threatened our extinction without understanding who you were facing. Humanity doesn't surrender when backed into a corner. We innovate. We adapt. We overcome. You've doomed yourselves as well, Dravix snarled. Your vessels are being destroyed alongside ours. A sacrifice we're willing to make, Thrace replied calmly. Unlike you, we understand that some things are worth dying for. The transmission cut off as another explosion rocked the Viridian flagship. Around the solar system, the battle reached its climax. The human battleships, their mission accomplished, began emergency evacuation procedures as their reactors approached critical failure. Escape pods launched by the hundreds, carrying surviving crew members away from their doomed vessels. The smaller craft of the Alliance fleet moved in to retrieve them, fighting past the remaining Viridian support ships. Captain Wolf stood on his bridge long after ordering his crew to evacuate. Navigation, set collision course with their central power core. He commanded the skeleton crew that remained. Course set, Captain, Navigator Jin confirmed, her voice steady despite knowing what came next. It's been an honor, Wolf said simply. Launch your escape pods now. I'll handle the final approach. Once alone on the bridge, Wolf watched as the massive reactor housing of the Viridian dreadnought filled his view screen. He thought briefly of all the steps that had led him here, from Special Forces operative to ship captain to humanity's last line of defense. For Earth, he whispered as the Odysseus plunged directly into the alien vessel's power core. The resulting explosion tore the dreadnought apart from within, adding another victory to humanity's desperate gambit. 3 days after what would become known as the Battle of Sol, Admiral Thrace stood before the remnants of the Alliance Security Council. The chamber, normally housed in Geneva, had been relocated to the underground facilities of Armstrong City on the Moon after Earth suffered limited bombardment during the conflict. The final count stands at 4 Viridian dreadnoughts destroyed, 2 crippled and captured, and 1 retreated from the system, Thrace reported. We lost 8 battleships, 23 cruisers, and over 100 smaller vessels. Casualties are still being tallied, but conservative estimates put the number at 15,000. Council President Indra Vashti, her face lined with exhaustion, nodded solemnly. A terrible price, but considering what was at stake, we cannot call it anything but a victory. What about the captured dreadnoughts? Counselor Talos Renner asked. What have we learned? Dr. Marek and his team are leading the examination, Thrace replied. Their preliminary findings suggest the Viridians have been using stolen technology throughout their conquests, including the Cascade Shield system. They didn't even fully understand how it worked, just that it made them invulnerable until now. And the retreating dreadnought, another counselor questioned. Long-range sensors tracked it to the edge of the system before it engaged its FTL drive, Thrace answered. We believe it's returning to Viridian space to report their defeat, Vashti concluded. Which means this may not be over. No, Thrace agreed. But next time we'll be ready. 2 weeks later, in a cavernous hangar beneath Olympus Mons, Dr. Asher Marek led Admiral Thrace through a maze of research stations where engineers and scientists pored over salvaged Viridian technology. The Cascade Shield was actually developed by a civilization called the Ardani, Marek explained excitedly. The Viridians conquered them 3 centuries ago and appropriated their technology, but they never fully understood its principles. They just replicated it. And now, Thrace prompted. Now we understand it better than they ever did, Marek said with undisguised pride. The harmonic inversion projector was just the beginning. With what we've learned, we can integrate the Cascade Shield into our own vessels, but with significant improvements. They stopped before an enormous holographic display showing a new ship design unlike anything in the Alliance fleet. Sleeker, more advanced, combining human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. We're calling it the Phoenix class, Engineer Devereaux said, joining them. The prototype could be ready within 6 months. Good, Thrace nodded. Because I suspect we'll need it. In the darkest reaches of Viridian space, aboard the damaged dreadnought Eternal Dominion, Subcommander Krozak, now elevated to Supreme Commander after Dravix's death, addressed the Imperium's High Council via quantum transmission. The humans defeated our greatest weapons, he reported grimly. They penetrated the cascade shields and destroyed our dreadnoughts. Impossible. Elder Counselor Vrax hissed. No species has ever overcome our defenses. Nevertheless, they did, Krozak insisted. I witnessed it myself. These humans, they are unlike any adversary we have faced. They sacrificed their own vessels willingly to destroy ours. Then we shall return with our entire armada, another counselor declared. We will obliterate their worlds completely. No, Krozak's mandibles clicked in agitation. You don't understand. They've already begun salvaging our technology. By the time we mobilize our forces, they will have adapted and improved upon it. The longer we wait, the stronger they become. A heavy silence fell over the council chamber as the implications became clear. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of conquest, the Viridians faced a species that could not only withstand their technology, but rapidly evolve beyond it. 6 months later, a Viridian diplomatic vessel entered the Sol system under a flag of truce. It was met by the newly commissioned AFS Phoenix, humanity's first ship incorporating the Cascade Shield technology, with significant improvements. Captain Isolde Ravencroft, formerly Lieutenant Commander and now First Captain of the Phoenix, greeted the Viridian envoys in the ship's conference room. Behind her stood Admiral Thrace, Dr. Marek, and representatives from the Alliance government. Supreme Commander Krozak led the Viridian delegation, his posture subdued compared to the typical Viridian arrogance. On behalf of the Imperium, I come to negotiate terms of coexistence. Not surrender? Admiral Thrace asked pointedly. The Viridian Imperium does not surrender, Krozak replied stiffly. But we recognize the value of mutual respect between capable civilizations. 6 months ago, you demanded our submission and threatened our extinction, Ravencroft noted coldly. What changed your minds? Krozak's compound eyes shifted to the viewports, where a dozen Phoenix-class vessels now patrolled Earth's orbit, each incorporating not only Cascade Shield technology, but weapon systems derived from Viridian designs. We have ruled this sector for a millennium because we possess superior technology, Krozak admitted reluctantly. You have demonstrated that technological advantage is fleeting, but adaptability is not. The High Council has determined that war with humanity would be inadvisable. Admiral Thrace stepped forward, his expression stern but not unkind. We will not accept anything less than full recognition of human sovereignty and our right to explore and colonize unclaimed worlds. Additionally, we want reparations for the lives lost defending our home. These terms are acceptable, Krozak conceded, mandibles twitching with what might have been discomfort. The Imperium also proposes an exchange of knowledge, cultural and scientific, under mutually beneficial terms. As the diplomats from both species began the detailed work of crafting a peace treaty, Admiral Thrace stepped aside with Captain Ravencroft. They came looking for an easy conquest, Thrace remarked quietly, and instead found their match. More than their match, Ravencroft corrected. In 6 months, we've gone from barely understanding their shield technology to improving upon it. Imagine where we'll be in 5 years. Thrace nodded thoughtfully. That's what frightens them, I think. Not that we defeated them once, but that we'll continue to evolve while they've been stagnant for centuries. On the observation deck later that evening, Dr. Marek stood with weapons specialist Blackwood, watching Earth rotate serenely below them. Do you think they'll honor the treaty? Blackwood asked. I think they're too intelligent not to, Marek replied. They've conquered 12 civilizations before us, but I suspect none of them did what humanity did. Sacrifice everything to find a solution instead of surrendering. They declared their ships unbeatable, Blackwood mused, until mankind made them eat their words. And that, said Marek with a smile, is the most valuable lesson they could learn about us. When pushed to the brink, humanity doesn't break. We innovate. We adapt. We overcome. In the vastness of space beyond, the stars continued their ancient vigil, unmoved by the conflicts of mortal species. But among those stars, a new understanding had dawned. Humanity had earned its place, not through conquest, but through the uniquely human traits of sacrifice, ingenuity, and unwavering determination. The galaxy would never be the same again.